Right? Yeah, I
I would
am.
hope so.
Yeah.
All right. We are live.
Now, are
No.
we live?
Yep.
Because we want to wait a second.
Oh,
Sometimes it gets cut off on the
Never.
YouTube and the lives.
nope.
So we're live now, though.
Mm-hmm. For 15
Okay.
to 16 seconds. Yep.
I can start.
Yep.
Notice that I'm not saying anything. I'm just.
Thank you, Gerald, for being quiet. It helps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, of course.
It's better. This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story, once a week. I'm Andy.
I'm Anise.
I'm Gerald.
And this week we read Hansa and Gretyl and Piece of Shit by Rebecca Curtis. What a story!
You have to summarize it, Andy. I know you said you were just going to say, like, not so
Wasn't that the greatest summary
No,
ever?
you need
I
to
was just that
summarize
was an intro. All right, I'm building excitement.
All right.
All right, this is a
Yeah.
multimedia enterprise.
Okay.
God help us.
Well, what a story. All right. So we got Gretyl is our main character. She's a girl, 14, 15 on the next hunter's moon. Daughter of Hans and Grethilda. And she gets a tummy ache one day and then goes to school, and her mom's kind of a shit. And school's dumb, and she feeds a cat, and she meets this weird guy who keeps asking her for things to fix his car. And she's scared that he's going to abduct her, and then he doesn't, and he gives her a magic whistle. Right, so then the story just kind of goes. She's got appendicitis. Her older sisters, Hansa and Piece of Shit, all are like, yeah, you definitely have appendicitis. We both had appendicitis. That's what the symptoms are. You're going to die if you don't go to the ER. And her parents continue being shitty. And so, like, it does that for a long time. And I don't want to diminish it, but also I found how shitty her parents were a little tedious, that they were just awful in all of the ways. Like, they were just checking every single box of how you can be awful to a child. And so, like, they're real bad. And as I was reading this story, I'm going to editorialize in my summary because it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
I was realizing, like, man, this really feels like a magical realism story, but like everything's real. It's even less magical than before, but it does have this sort of dreamlike quality. And then finally, like, she starts having dreams/hallucinations about this pet cat who is a lion-headed god who takes her into fairy tale lands. And right, she makes the decision not to die, and the pet cat helps her come back, and then the guy with the dog comes and rescues her and calls an ambulance. And she grows up and has a happy ending with a nice forestry guy who plays Dungeons and Dragons with her.
But they can't.
She becomes an anesthesiologist, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Right? And she does very well for herself.
Yeah.
Hurrah.
But
Happy
also,
ending.
like, doesn't ever... There's no closure on the shitty parents and how shitty they are either. Like, she does well for herself.
I know. And she pays for the holidays and stuff, doesn't she?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She provides her parents all the shitty things that they thought they wanted but couldn't afford because they were shitty.
Okay, let's discuss the story. It's clearly, So, Gerald, what did you think of the story?
I found it a bit of a difficult read because it's there's a lot of short sentences and dialogue isn't speech marked, which I don't mind, but it just makes me slow down and it sort of dragged a bit in the middle because nothing much seemed to be happening. Like Andy said, the parents are just how awful can you be? How awful can you be painted? And in a way, I felt cheated when she got fixed at the end because it was almost as if she'd been telegraphing us all the way through that she's going to die. At one point, she said that her mother took her name, and there was something in there that sort of implied that the girl had gone, that she died. But then she didn't die, and she sort of lived happily ever after from not being able to have kids. And I just think it's a bit of a, a bit of a nothing
Right,
ending.
It was very telegraphing that the little girl was going to die, and then it was like surprise happy ending, but not surprise satisfying ending. It was.
Yeah, it was super telegraphed. Because also remember, piece of shit. There's that line where like she was going to regret not calling 911.
Right. Yeah.
And also, why is everyone awful? Like, remember when piece of shit turns on her boyfriend because her boyfriend's there near tears, thinking that
boyfriend is his name, by the way.
Yeah. So this boyfriend, who's like, you need
Kind
to call
boyfriend.
Who?
It's in caps. Kind boyfriend.
Yeah, kind boyfriend. Yeah. So it's like, oh, he's like, you need to call 911 and send it to her house. She's dying. She has appendicitis. And she's like, isn't she a little too young for you? You're really sexually jealous of your 14-year-old sister right now who's about to die from appendicitis because a man's like, maybe 14-year-olds shouldn't die from appendicitis. Wow. So many shitty people.
Yeah.
God, it annoyed me. But it's supposed to annoy me, so that's effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's nice that you can have bad people. I don't mind bad people, but you should then have some redeeming quality or something that gives you a bit of light and shade. But this is just dark.
Or even if you don't have any redeeming qualities, there was a point where the story keeps hammering home. The parents keep ignoring this appendicitis thing and even start fantasizing about their lives after she were dead and how that would be better for them. The fantasies are very different. And then you start discovering like, oh, and the father also like molests his daughters and like all the stuff that's been going on here just comes out. And after a while, it was just like, man, this sort of just like chronicle of like endless abuse in all different ways, shapes and forms. And you're telling me she's just going to die at the end? Man, something better happen because this is just the story of Gretel being abused and then Gretel dies.
Right.
So like her surviving at the very least, it's like not just, constant death and abuse, but
man.
Oh, he froze.
Yeah, I did freeze. But yeah,
car guy.
Oh, what? You froze for a bit.
Oh, okay. Do I exist again?
Yes.
You do exist, yes.
Good. Hey, we've got a comment from Mark Lethbridge.
Yep, you can read it.
What a title. That's why I picked it. Nice to have an audio reading of the text available too. Oh, I didn't realize that. I do like when they do that.
Yeah, it was at the top.
Yeah, I don't always listen, but I like when they have them. It's neat.
Yeah.
Car guy, right? Car guy who rescues her in the end.
Yeah, hunter guy.
Right. So like when he was introduced, I was like, okay, so if this is a fairy tale, which is pretty clearly signposted in certain ways, like what is his function? Is he the wolf? Right? Is he the dangerous one? But then like, no, she keeps doing tasks for him and denying the rewards. So that's like he's the helpful tinker on the road, right? He's the wise old traveler who you are nice to, and then he gives you something you need. But like, I don't know, in a really menacing way. So I still wasn't quite sure.
He was very menacing. When you first meet him, you think, oh, this man's grooming her for some horrible pedophilia. Anyway, no. And then he doesn't. He's not grooming her. And then you're like, oh, so is he just sort of like the wise hunter man who's like in tune with his surroundings and just like knows he's a horribly abused child and he just is sympathetic?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then like his dog is the bear dog, and Kat says they're going to take him to the bear, and the bear will eat her, but that'll be okay. So I assumed that was a link to the bear dog. It was the bear in the dream, but then like he didn't eat her. That's fine. But then the part where he showed up all bloody and said he just shot a buck and a fat doe, I assumed meant he killed her parents.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I assumed. I was like, oh, he shot a buck and there was a fat doe too, but I saved the children. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, good. You killed her parents. Good. But then like not that either. So like he was just hunting.
Yeah. So let's get to the Hansel and Gretel parallel, right? It's supposed to be a twist on the Hansel and Gretel story with the New York Times for this, where she explains, so she reread the Grimm brothers version, and then in a much older version, a French one called Finette Syndrome, which instead of an evil stepmother, there's an ogre. Instead of a house made of sweets, it's made of gems. And I think in that one, it's 3 children instead of 2. That's why she has 3 children in this one instead of 2. Okay, but what is the twist on Hansel and Gretel? I don't know who wants to take it.
Not me.
I don't know.
Because I think the only time where you really see the Hansel and Gretel thing, she's leaving a trail so she doesn't get lost in the woods. It's only in her delirium. Right. It's only when she has a fever, and it's basically literally going towards death. So instead of like death to get eaten by an ogre or a stepmother who's going to put you in the oven, it's literally like, are you choosing to die or to survive? Right? The cat's talking to her and says, hey, if you want to survive, you got to put the ogre in the oven. And then the next time she goes, the cat's like, yeah, you need to die. Because you're dying, because it's too late for you. It's too late. Or I guess I can help you survive, but then you're going to be horribly disfigured for the rest of your life. And they're going to have to cut away significant portions of your intestines. And she chooses that because she wants to see her parents and her sisters and her friends. Her parents made the list of things she misses.
Right.
There's a devotion she has to her parents despite their horrible abuse that is also very kind of fairy tale. There's like a Cinderella-esque quality to that. Right, because like she gets up, she's in horrible pain, and she's still like turning on the wood stove, making herself toast, going to school. No, she can't stay home. There's a lot of different fairy tale elements to this, except she doesn't really get, like, if you're going to give her a happy ending, to give her the big, like, well, Cinderella marries the prince, right? If there's going to be that big ending, it needs to be bigger than she becomes an anesthesiologist and then pays for her abusers' vacations and homes for the rest of their lives. Like, this is not, right? And I understand it's supposed to be dark, so it's not supposed to be a big fairy tale ending, but yeah, after a while, it just felt a little bit like, this is just a lot of abuse with, like, where's the point? Like, it's just a lot. I'm just watching this kid suffer for a while. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if this part of it, could it have been equally dark if it was shorter somehow? Like,
I think so.
The middle was just real. Not even that it was poorly written, but it was emotionally draining, right? It's just like, okay. And for yet another day,
for God's sake, yeah, do
she
something.
keeps being sick and abused.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've read stories that have that really emotionally draining parts where the intention is to drain you emotionally, is to make you feel something very dark. But with it, there's also some other point, some commentary on humanity, some commentary on some theme. There's like some other thing going on here that you're supposed to sort of see through that darkness. Like through that darkness, you're illuminating some deeper point. And here, what is the deeper point? There's shitty, abusive parents out there. Like where is the, what am I supposed to see through this abuse? Because if not, it just feels like heavy for no reason.
Yeah.
Because I agree. There was a point where I was just like, okay, this is, especially if she dies, it's like, well, what's the point? But even if she survives, what's the point? The way that
and they were really telegraphing that she was going to die. And I was just like, can we just do it? Can we just get there now? Can she be done at least?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's quite interesting what you say about the ending that felt like a bit of a letdown, really. That you spend a long time building up the story and the environment and her situation, and the ending feels too simple somehow. It feels too, I'd have liked there to have been some sort of some form of some sort of fantasy element to it, or something. I don't know. It would have been difficult to write, I'm sure, but it just feels like it's okay in the end, really. And she still loves her parents. And it just it just doesn't come off as being real.
And tacking on a completely like everything's perfectly magically fine would also feel not satisfying. Like, right. Like, yeah, okay. She went through some shit and there were some costs, but right. It doesn't go far enough in either direction. It's not, it's not good enough or horrible enough.
Right. And she went through some things and came out the other side okay, but not like just because like things are, I think that's the problem. Everything is just as it is. Is it because of her like tenacity? not necessarily. Most people don't want to die, like
Right.
Yeah.
surviving itself, it's a miracle, but it's not because of like a particular part of her character, right? It's not like there's something about her character that made her survive against all odds. Not necessarily.
Well, right. And if it was more of a fairy tale, then she survived because she was kind to the cat and kind to the man with the car, right?
Right.
But it was not quite. They didn't help enough for the amount of realistic this was.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And the guy with the car was very much based in the real world and came and broke in and maybe he's the guy who steals TVs and stuff.
Right. I assume he's the TV thief.
Yeah, because he's got a skeleton.
I mean, we have like 3 characters, so
yeah, you think. But then he calls the ambulance and you just think, oh, so that's it. There's nothing. Again, it's just it's like he sees the girl and he knows she's ill and he realizes how ill she is. So he calls an ambulance and you just think, okay, yeah, like
and
you would.
I mean, that in and of itself is maybe the blending that Rebecca Curtis is trying to do between fantasy and reality, right? So this guy, unlikely to hear the whistle, hears the whistle, we presume, shows up, sees that she's near death. And if you're trying to like merge the fantasy and reality, the fantasy aspect of it is that this random stranger who she's helped like 3 times with his car shows up to save her life, but there is no magic here. So the only magic is the magic of being able to call an ambulance, and these healers appear at your door to take you away to a hospital where they can operate on you and save your life. Like that is the magic that is here, right? But again, the main character herself, like again in Cinderella, she gets the over-the-top happy ending because she's like so pure. It's a reward for her integrity. Where Gretel's fine. She's just you know what I mean? Like there's nothing particularly pure or special about her as compared to anyone else. So like I can see how calling the ambulance is the modern form of magic. Okay. But why? Right? It's just the why isn't satisfied.
Yeah.
Is it that, I don't know, it's part of it that the author kind of tiptoes right up to the line of a magical realism story, and then it's like, yeah, but not. And it's like, okay, well, like if you had just committed, then it could have been better, I think. Right? Like you're playing with fairy tale elements and it's cool, and about partway through, like 1/3 of the way through, where I thought I was halfway through and I didn't realize how long the story was. I said to Karina, I was like, hey, I'm liking this. It's neat. It's got like this, it feels like a magical realism story, except nothing magic has happened, but it just sort of has this sort of dreamlike thing. And clearly they're making fairy tale references, and that's what it's purposeful. It wants me to be in this weird, floaty, dreamlike state. But then didn't do enough one way or the other. Right? Like it didn't go full on commit to it.
Yeah, and there were some smart choices. Like you needed those moments of delirium to pull out of the home, to add some different color, some different mood to the story. Because if she would not have followed Miho's the talking cat into the woods several times for the actual Hansel and Gretel parallel, oh boy, like it would have been way too much, Yeah, would have been way too much. Yeah, too dreary. So like those purposeful choices were smart. You needed those moments, but I guess what we keep saying over and over and over is there was no payoff to it.
Also, I kind of thought Piece of Shit was going to have some sort of clever joke on why her name is Piece of Shit.
Yes.
And there wasn't. And then I read the interview and there wasn't.
Why was she called Piece of Shit? Does she say?
The rich history of authors giving a silly or insulting name to a journalist or writer character who's kind of a loser.
And a stand-in for the author themselves. So it's kind of like when they put themselves in the story and then like denigrate themselves. That literary tradition.
Oh yeah, that literary tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like an insider joke. but yeah, we're in a fairy tale. Like,
Right. I don't know. I thought she was going to do something yet cleverer with it.
Yeah,
Right.
it didn't bother me as much as it seems to bother Andy because, like, I don't know, authors winking at each other and doing little giggles is like a thing.
Yeah, but it's like 2/3 of a joke. And so I was like, oh, and where's the punchline? I was like, no, there isn't one. I was like, oh,
No, there's none.
okay. Got excited for nothing.
Yeah. It's funny. That's like a nice way to put the story. It's like there's no punchline either, right? Like, where's that?
Right.
Okay, but give me the thing. I need the thing. I need the
right. Because going right up to the ending, that's one of the things I said to Karina. I was like, oh man, I think maybe you should read this story, but I'm not sure yet. I have to finish it. And then I finished it. And no, I don't know.
Because
it was
right. It's 2/3 of a good story.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a bad story either, but it's something I wanted to be excited for, and I was giving it more leeway to keep me going, and then it didn't do anything with all of the extra energy I put into it.
I know what you mean, Andy, because there was a lot of smart choices. Like, you can tell the author knows what she's doing, and there's a lot of things that are intentional, and you're like, okay, I see it. Keep going, and then it doesn't happen.
Right.
Yep. Exactly. Like, you trust the author because there is skill here. Though, to Gerald's point earlier, there was, especially early on, there was like 1 or 2 paragraphs. It was just short sentence. And I was like, I need a break from this rhythm. But then she did. Sentences got a little longer a little later. But yeah, there was a point where I had the same thought. I was like, oh my God, give me some variety and length. And then she did. And one of the sentences that I liked is that stuck with me was when the father is imagining her Gretel dead. So where is it? He doesn't want her to die, but the thoughts proliferate. He sees a funeral, himself suited, handsome but solemn, a divorce, a new family, possibly sons who'd be free from the complications, lamentations, and recriminations daughters bring. Yeah, because you're a pedophile.
Right.
I like that line. That was a good line. That was good. I like how he like shifts the blame to the daughters and is thinking,
right.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And the bit where she takes the daughter's name, I was struggling to find it. It said, years later, the mother takes the daughter's name. Call me Gretel, she tells her friends, other mothers who teach catechism. Oh, they say, why? Wasn't that your daughter's name? Wasn't that your daughter? Isn't that your daughter's name? No, she's no longer around, so I've taken her name. And that's kind of annoying because you think, it's going to end in a certain way. Oh, no, it's not. It's ending this way.
Right.
And,
yeah. And I guess it fits that they clearly disown their daughters if they go to college out of state, but
yeah.
Or you could say the twist could be, wasn't that your daughter's name? And the reason why they're using the past tense is because after what happened to her, Gretel excommunicates her parents. She is now estranged from them, but she doesn't. We know she pays for all their things. So it's is.
And she sometimes sleeps over at their house as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she still likes them.
Yeah.
After they nearly killed her.
Yeah.
Funny. It's kind of a frustrating story. I think we're all excited to see what happened with it, and it just, and she can write. There's no doubt about that, and she some nice wordplay and all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
And, I don't want to sound overly moralistic, like, oh, because your parents were horrible to you, you're not supposed to pay for their vacations and homes. Because in real life, there are abusive, horrible parents whose kids grow up to continue to do right by them anyway, because abuse is complicated, families are complicated. But the story isn't about that. If you make the story a fairy tale that has a Hansel and Gretel parallel, then we're not spending enough time exploring the weird ways that abuse manifests, and the victims continue to support the abusers. So then it just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be overly moralistic. That story also exists, and that story is also worth exploring and worth writing. But the story's like, it's not delivering on that one either. So you got to deliver on one of these threads. Yeah. All right. I feel like we're being really harsh, but
Well,
it wasn't like bad. I think maybe that's the thing. Maybe the thing is like, because we know this author is good, because we can see it. And we can tell good decisions. We can tell, right? This is a good author. Then it's like even more annoying that you don't get the thing. You want
Right.
six.
We've read shitty stories where I was just like, yeah, this is dumb. This is dumb, and they should feel bad for writing it.
Mhm.
You
And
know?
you make them feel bad.
Right.
Yeah,
They
but
should
that's
feel
not the
bad.
case here. That's not the
No,
case
No.
here.
it isn't.
No.
It's just like, why'd you make those choices? Why didn't you make
Yeah.
different, better choices?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was clearly a choice, also, right? It wasn't any sort of lack of ability or vision or capacity. It's like, okay, that was important to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, and something. There's a board game called Happy Days. I'd play that.
Yeah, actually, we should look
Wow.
into this.
Yeah.
The Happy Days board. We can hang out with Fonzie and collect allowance.
And go on dates. Drag race.
Jump sharks.
Oh, also, just announced at Funko Fair 2021, Happy Days Funko Pop figures now available to pre-order. You can get Fonzie.
I don't get the
and
Funko Pop
Richie.
thing. I
I
don't
think
get
you
it.
can get Al from Al's Diner.
Al Steiner, yeah.
Right.
Okay, shall we rate?
Yes. Let's.
Oh,
dear,
man,
I
that's
don't
going to be
know.
complicated, huh?
I know.
Yeah, it's. I thought, yes, let's rate it. I thought,
I'm gonna come in at a 4, I think.
I was just thinking, but like, do I like it? Did I enjoy the process of reading it as much as some of the other things I gave a 4? I think I'm going to say 3.
Okay.
You know what? I was probably thinking 4 before we had the discussion, and it made me more critical of it. I don't even want to say it made me like it less, but made me more critical of the story. 3.
Okay.
yeah, because sometimes you think maybe I missed something. Maybe one of the other guys can bring something out, and you think, oh yeah, that's now I understand, and that's made it better. Yeah, I don't know where to go with this.
You know what else didn't help? Just before we came on air, I read the interview that the author did, also in the New Yorker, and that just made it clear like these were decisions she made. And I was like, oh, if it was something you had accidentally done, I would have maybe been more forgiving. But you're just like, I choose this. Okay,
I don't care.
it put me in a bad frame.
Harsh
of mind.
grader. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'll come in. I'll come in with a 4 because that's. I'm normally quite generous, and that's, it was okay and it was well written and it was interesting, but I think it lacked something. It lacked.
Certainly, the first third of it is like real strong start to something. I just don't know where it goes.
It's really interesting, and I think she she's got the sense of location. She did that really well, and the characterization. I thought
really excited starting reading this story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeling like it was paying off some things that didn't get paid off.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I mean, I agree. I don't want to keep hammering home the same points, which is like, yes, I totally trusted something and then I didn't get the thing that I trusted. I've said it 1,000 times. So next week we're reading Fatima the Biloquist, a transformation story by Nafisa Thompson Spires. But before you go, tell us your Hansel and Gretel reboot in our Facebook group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. And we have a podcast disease, and the only cure is to rush yourself to the iTunes store and leave a review on this show. If you enjoy our show about girls too good for the families they're born into, then consider supporting us on patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the piece of shit in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Very good.